Hey Bears fans, before we get into today's video, I met with the production staff earlier this morning and they said, hey, we need 50 new subscribers from today's show or else. I asked what or else meant. They didn't really give me a clear answer. If you like what we do here, if you want us to keep doing videos, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep you up to date throughout training camp and on into the season. Do me a favor as well. Share that link below. It's youtube.com/BearsNow. Let's continue to grow this channel. And with that being said, we got the latest training camp news. Pads went on today. It's all coming up right now. So training camp is officially here. I always say it starts when pads go on, and that happened today. Had their first full padded practice earlier this morning. Matt Nagy met with the media. Lots of competition to keep an eye on over the next 4 weeks as the season kicks off 4 weeks from yesterday. It's here, guys. Football season is here. This was Matt Nagy a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to remind you guys of this quote because in the past couple of years, it hasn't been a lot of competition in training camp and in the preseason. Not this year. He said, we're going to freaking get after it in this training camp. So mindset-wise, when we're going and we strap it up and go live and we hit and tackle, there's going to be a mindset that we're going to be a tough football team. So different attitude this year, and that's expected coming off a disappointing 8-8 season. Lots of competition, not just at quarterback either, which is well documented. More on that in a second, but you got right guard, which is up for grabs. The number 3 wide receiver spot is a competitive atmosphere. Cornerback number 2, more on that later on in the show. Strong safety is even a position that is a little bit up for grabs. Don't assume Tayshaun Gibson is the starter. Lots of these positions are going to have to be earned. Now, outside of quarterback, because we talk a lot about the quarterback position, Foles and Trubisky, which camp battle are you looking at the most, keeping an eye on out? We're going to cover it all. Let me know, which position are you keeping an eye on during training camp over the next couple of weeks? Now, obviously, the quarterback competition is between Mitch Trubisky, happy birthday in a couple of days, he turns 26 on August 20th, and Nick Foles. Matt Nagy likes what he saw from both these guys today, likes the decision-making. Here's what he also had to say when briefly asked about when he wants to name a starter. Simple answer, we're going to stretch it out as far as we possibly can. So look for this to drag out probably until the week before week 1. Like, September 13th is the first game, September 12th, I'm getting my days mixed up, somewhere around there. It's going to probably be that first or second week of September before we know a starter, and especially with no preseason games, they're going to maximize the amount of reps they have to determine whether or not Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky will be your week 1 starter. Now, this is an interesting item, and the thing we're talking about most around the Chicago Bears at training camp, and that's Cordarrelle Patterson seemingly making the move to running back. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to play some wide receiver, but it's all starting to make sense now that the Bears didn't sign a veteran running back because Cordarrelle Patterson probably going to make the switch to running back, at least play there more often than the wide receiver position. So, and it makes sense, right? With David Montgomery and Tarik Cohen, you got your 1-2 punch, but now you get in a Swiss Army knife of player in Patterson who can give you some different things at the running back position. You saw the numbers last year at receiver, just 11 catches for 83 yards. Maybe a positional change or at least, versatility makes some sense. They talked all last year about how they wanted to use Patterson in a lot of different ways. They didn't really do it. So I'll ask you guys this question. What position should Cordarrelle Patterson play for the Bears? You guys can debate under the pinned comment. It'll be right there. You can cast your votes. Type RB for running back. Type WR for wide receiver. What position should Patterson play this season? And if you look at his career numbers, it's not like he's never ran the football. A couple of years ago in New England, he had a couple of huge games for Bill Belichick. Now, that's Belichick, but 785 yards, over 7 yards per carry. Some of that on, jet sweeps and stuff like that earlier in his career, but 7 touchdowns as well. He's never really gotten it going at receiver. Yeah, he had a couple of nice seasons earlier in his career, but I mentioned earlier, less than 100 yards this year. Like, wide receiver, he's never become that guy that we expected to see when he was an early round pick earlier on in his career. So I'm excited about this move if it is indeed what's going to happen there. He'll probably play some receiver still, but you've got a lot of depth there, guys who can compete on the outside. You don't have a lot of depth behind Montgomery and Tarik Cohen. Maybe Cordarrelle Patterson can give you a different look at the running back position. Now, we want you guys to continue to stay safe. Matt Nagy wore a face covering throughout the entire practice this morning. you guys can wear one too. Go to chatsports.com/BearsMasks. If we want to get back into Soldier Field soon, you're going to have to wear one of these, especially if we're allowed to go to games. Go to that link. It's chatsports.com/BearsMasks. Tons of different variety. Again, the best bang for your buck. Get these 3 or these 4 packs. The more you commit to, the cheaper they are per mask. Chatsports.com/BearsMasks. That link will be in the comments, and it'll be in the description. Now, Bilal Nichols got some reps at nose tackle today, as obviously Eddie Goldman opted out, so not a natural replacement there on this defensive line, but Nichols has the size to play that position. He's played primarily 3-4 defensive end in this scheme as a rotation type of player, but he says he's ready to step up. Obviously, the raw stats, they don't jump off the screen at you, but look for increased reps for Nichols at nose tackle this season, because the defensive tackle position with John Jenkins in there, he's been a rotation guy in his career. They don't have an every down defensive tackle or nose tackle. So I think Nichols can slide over some. I think you're going to see perhaps Roy Robertson-Harris do a little bit of that, although he's a little undersized. Nichols makes the most sense as a guy who can slide in and play nose in that 3-4 technique, especially if they're not going to sign a guy like Snacks Harrison, which at this point it doesn't really feel like they're going to. So who should start at nose tackle? Type BN for Bilal Nichols. Type JJ for John Jenkins. Let me know. Neither of these guys are going to replace Eddie Goldman, but can you get 75-80% of that production? That's what you're hoping for. So BN for Nichols or JJ for Jenkins. Artie Burns looks like he could be starting as well, at least, after the first practice. So way early, right, as we go through some training camp news here for the Chicago Bears. Took the first team reps at CB2. We've talked about this a lot. Jalen Johnson's a player they drafted to be that number 2 outside corner, but when you get the entire offseason wiped out, it takes time for rookies to translate, especially at that position. He's got the most experience, Burns does, out of all the options the Bears have at that number 2 cornerback role. Now, his past 2 years in Pittsburgh did not go to plan. 2016, 2017, came out of college, played really well. 26 pass breakups and 4 picks. Something changed. I don't know what happened in Pittsburgh with Burns, but he was not the same guy. Got benched early on in the 2018 season and really didn't get much run last year as well. Bears brought him in, took a chance on him, got the first team reps today, so we'll see what happens at that number 2 cornerback spot. I think long term the plan is still to have Jalen Johnson in there, but Artie Burns could be your week 1 starter as he offers the most experience. So who will start in week 1 at that number 2 cornerback spot? Let me know. Is it Artie Burns, Jalen Johnson? I know a lot of you are Kevin Tolliver truthers. Lots of different options. Who will be CB2 in week 1 of the 2020 season? Now, some more news here. The Chicago Bears are working out a couple of quarterbacks, and this isn't a surprise. None of these guys they bring in are going to compete for the starting job or anything like that. But with COVID-19, you might see some teams have 4 quarterbacks when you factor in the practice squad. Mason Fine, UDFA out of North Texas, incredibly productive. His main issue is he's extremely undersized and had some injuries because of that. The numbers were incredible in college for Fine. Over 12,000 passing yards. You see the touchdowns with almost 100, about a 3-to-1 ratio there, touchdown to interception. Gunslinger, decent arm for his size, but he's about 5'10" and a $190. Not what you're looking for out of an NFL quarterback. We'll see if he can get into the mix. Kyle Sloter as well. Preseason legend Kyle Sloter, by the way, has bounced around some practice squads since 2017 after being undrafted out of Northern Colorado. His raw preseason stats are like, Sam Bradford 2.0, preseason legend, right? Guys, this is against 3rd and 4th stringers primarily. I think he tweeted a couple months ago, if I ever get a proper chance, I could be a starter in this league. Well, the Bears are working you out, Mr. Sloter, so best of luck to him. Best of luck to Mason Fine. I said on my Bears 53-man roster projection video that I think they're going to carry 3 on the active roster with Tyler Bray. Maybe one of these guys becomes your practice squad quarterback. Could make some sense in the end. We'll see how it all plays out. They're set to work out later this week. So pick a quarterback to sign, the undersized productive college player in Mason Fine type MF, or preseason legend Kyle Sloter, who I will mention has been with the Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Maybe he's got some knowledge on the NFC North that could make some more sense. Type KS. Let me know which quarterback you'd like to see the Bears sign. And obviously, again, neither of these guys are going to factor in on the active roster, right? You got Trubisky and Foles, whatever the order is, whoever starts, that's your 1-2 punch. I think Bray's going to be quarterback 3 and make the active roster due to the coronavirus situation. I think they'll carry 3. We'll have to wait and see. But I said all along, you got to have a quarterback on your practice squad, and maybe one of those guys can be the answer.